bookworms to Dresden. My name is Whitney, and we are reading The Ring by Danielle Steel. So, as I mentioned, every time we talk about this book is so much more than I expected it to be. I'm enjoying it a lot, and I did not expect that. I chose this book because of my grandma. She gifted me her whole Danielle Steel collection, and this book is one of her favorites. So, I strongly encourage you to give this book a chance, even if you're not typically a romance fan. I think there's a lot more to this book than that. But before we get into discussing this, just want to remind everybody that for Series Saturday, we did just finish up Grave Peril. You can find my last thoughts, this past Saturday. And now we're starting to read Summer Night, which is the fourth book in the Dresden File series. And so this one we started, like I said, this past Saturday. We're reading the first half. You can find the breakdown in the description below. But we're just basically breaking it in half. So we're reading this first half this week. And then on Saturday, we'll start and finish the next half. So hopefully you're participating. There's also links where you can pick these up found in the description below as well. And then, as always, I do like to announce our weekly reads. Of course, this week we are finishing up Boogeyman by Gail Wilson. You can find my thoughts on this Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, we will be starting First to Die by James Patterson. Definitely keeping with the spooky thriller theme of the month. So, really excited to read this, give James Patterson another chance since I was so disappointed in Witch and Wizard. I'm really excited for that. And then, of course, I like to introduce the next weekly read. So, next Wednesday, we will be reading The Morning After by Lisa Jackson. And then again, there's links down in the description below where you can pick this up if you want to participate and need a physical copy like I do. Of course, your library is always a good option. Check to see if they have it. And then if you don't need a physical copy, Kindle or audiobook is a great way to participate as well. So let me go ahead and read the synopsis for you so you have an idea of what it's about, and see if you want to join me as we read this. So it says, his victims. A woman is frantic as she awakens in a dark, closed space. From above her comes a muffled sound of cruel laughter, followed by the hard splatter of dirt. Pure terror takes over as she realizes she's being buried alive, and her last breath is a scream that no one but a sadistic killer will take his secrets. To journalist Nikki Gillette, this disturbing story is a ticket out of small town Savannah and on to the big time. She's already given the killer a nickname, the Grave Robber, and she's spending every minute dogging tough cop Pierce Reed's investigation, trailing him through Savannah's deep thickets and crumbling cemeteries, even though she's starting to wonder about the secrets he's keeping. To the grave. Another body is found, and another. Each gruesome discovery unnerves Nikki a little more. There's something familiar about it, something she should know. Now, as the serial killer pulls her even deeper into his sick game, she has no idea how close she's getting to the truth or how deadly it will be. So, yeah, really, really excited for this one. I have a couple of different Lisa Jackson books, and I was trying to decide which one I wanted to do, and this one definitely captured my attention. So, like I said, if you want to participate, definitely check the link below and check your local library and such as well. So, that is our weekly reads. And also remember, we do a Throwback Thursday, and I do have bonus videos that pop up from time to time. And so, if you're not already subscribed, please do so and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on a thing. And at the time I'm recording this, I just hit my first subscription goal of 50 subscribers. So thank you all so much for everybody who has subscribed and everybody who watches and leaves comments and such. I appreciate you all so much. And I'm excited to, get the next 50 subscribers. So also share these videos with anybody you know who loves to read. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about The Ring. This week we read chapters 27 through 39. So those are the chapters we will be discussing today. As always, since we are talking about these characters and these chapters, there is a certain level of spoilers. I do try to keep it spoiler light, but I mean, it's just the nature of the game as we're discussing these characters and these chapters. And so if you don't want spoilers and you you want to jump off, that's perfectly fine. Grab a copy of the book and then rejoin me once you have read those chapters. And if you're not planning on reading it though, I hope you will stay on and maybe you'll get enticed to read it. You never know. But let's go ahead and start with chapter 27. Jean Pierre thinks he understands why Manfred set Ariana. Was he able to achieve what Manfred had hoped for? And I think he was. I mean, initially we thought Manfred set Ariana just because that was a safe place for her to go. And then there was kind of like thoughts that maybe he could help her find her brother. And I think, overall that was the goal, was to send Ariana somewhere where she would be safe. And so I think he did achieve that. He kept her safe. He did what he could to kind of help her move on too, which I think was kind of the hidden message there, was helping her move on and figure out what was next. And so he kept her safe. He got her as much answers as he could about her brother, which was basically nothing. I did not like part of that though, because there was something that was kind of a clue and he kind of dismissed it. I do see why he did that, but I still think it should have been brought up. And so he basically tells Ariana there's no hope whatsoever. And then he encourages her to go to America with some other refugees and such that are traveling across. There's a boat leaving, fairly quickly, and he really encourages her. So I think he did, he kept her safe, and then he kind of sets her out on her new life and helps her leave the past behind, which I think Manfred was aware that he would be able to do. He would be able to help her and kind of guide her essentially, for sure. So, and then number 28, did losing everything she had make it easier to leave behind everything she knew? And I mean, I don't think it's easy ever, but I think in this case, everything she potentially had left, which wasn't even a guarantee that she did have it left, I think all of that was tainted. So I think it was easier to kind of start over than stay with all the bad memories and such and not necessarily even have anything. I think it was kind of easier in that aspect to just go forward and start fresh. Where if she had any ties, like maybe if she still owned the house, even with all the loss, she might, have that tie and not have wanted to leave. So I do think with losing everything completely, it did make it slightly easier for her. And then chapter 29, Nancy Townsend has seen a lot of tragedy. What is it that keeps her helping the refugees? And so with Nancy, I kind of like that it kind of switched to her point of view, because obviously Ariana was very sick and out of it. And so her point of view, I don't think would have been very interesting. And I think it kind of just showed how others saw Ariana. And they look at her and they see this fragile little girl, but there's this underlying strength there. And I think for Nancy, she mentions, uh, all the deaths and such of the people coming through. But I think if you can help one person, um, and make that difference, whether they live or die. I think that kind of is what keeps her pushing forward. And even with all the tragedy, she also sees all the fresh starts and the new hope and everything as well. And I think, seeing those and being able to help those that maybe otherwise wouldn't have made it, I think is what kind of keeps pushing her forward. It's definitely, I think, not something that would be easy to handle at all. Um, and so I think, having just seeing that life and that fresh starts, the fresh starts that people have, is what really keeps driving her forward, even with all the tragedy. And then number 30, what is it about Ariana that made Ruth want to go the extra mile to help her? And again, I think it's that underlying strength. Like, she looks so fragile, but she has this strength to her. And then also just you can see all she's lost. I think that really shows through, and kind of tugs, at the people she encounters, tug at their heart. And I think also, in a sense, like sometimes people just come into your life and you don't know what it is about them that draws you to them. And I think this may be a case. Like she had an important role to play in their own healing as well, and they had an important role to play in her healing. And so I think that just there was just this connection that they couldn't explain either. But they also saw the loss and the strength of everything she has endured for sure. And let's see here. 31. Out of the husband and wife, who is correct? Sam, that having a stranger there will be hard for their son when he comes home, or Ruth, that the opposite will be true? And so we already know who was actually correct in this situation, but I do think Sam had a good point. I think having a stranger there while you're coming home after being gone for 2 years, you're trying to heal and everything like that would be kind of awkward and difficult because you couldn't fully relax. But I think because of who Ariana is and kind of the connection they formed, I think that actually did allow him to heal. Where I think, maybe if it had been anybody else, it could have gone the other way. But I think because it was Ariana and just her manner and everything like that, I think that allowed them to form that connection and it didn't make it harder for him, it did make it easier. And let's see, number 32. Despite what she has been through, did Ariana's experience with her father and Manfred allow her to trust Sam more quickly? And I do think it did because we see her, she's really nervous, like she doesn't know why he's there. He's very intimidating to her. She doesn't know if he's gonna take her away or what's gonna happen to her when he first enters. But she quickly sees the kindness in him. And I think, especially her experience with Manfred, like obviously having her good experience with her father definitely helped. But then she had a lot of bad experiences during the war, and I think, the kindness that Manfred showed her allowed her to trust the kindness she saw in Sam a lot quicker than she would have otherwise. Because we even see with Manfred, like, she does not trust him right away. She sees him as a Nazi, and she just, it takes her a little bit of time. Where I think because, she was able to trust Manfred and the kindness he showed her, despite, being a Nazi and such, I think that really helped her when she saw that kindness in Sam. Um, excuse the puppy. Really helped her, trust that for sure. And 33, the Liebmans believe Ariana is Jewish. Is it, as she fears, too late to tell them the truth? And I don't think it was. I think if she had spoken up right then, or even fairly soon after that, I don't think it would have been too late, but I understand her fears and why she didn't speak up. But of course, the longer a lie goes on, the harder it gets to tell the truth. Because then they're wondering, well, why didn't you speak up sooner? And every time she had an opportunity, she didn't. She kept quiet. And so I think that's what's going to backfire on her. Not so much that she didn't speak up right away or anything like that, but that she continued to let it go on, even, when they brought it up after that. And so, I don't think it was too late, and I don't think it ever truly is too late. Um, Especially, I think if she does it in the right way, like fully explain her story, but I don't think she's ready for that at this point either. So, um, but 34, Paul is the first person Ariana is able to slowly open up to. Why? And so Paul, she doesn't fully open up. Again, there's secrets she's keeping, and he knows that. Like he knows she's keeping secrets from him, but he again kind of understands why, like with the war and everything. And I think she was able to open up to him versus like the girls or Ruth, because they kind of shared the war. And so even though he's American, he kind of bridges that gap between the war and what happened to her and then her new life in America. And so I think that's kind of what allowed her to open up to him, because he can understand a bit more than the rest can because he was in the war. So I think that's kind of where that connection formed, and that's what really allowed her to start opening up. Even though she's still keeping secrets and doesn't fully trust him, she's a lot more open with him than she is with anybody else in the household for sure. So, and let's see, number 35. Ariana isn't ready for a full romantic relationship. So why doesn't she fully dissuade Paul? And I think, she really tries to look at him as a brother, and she does see glimpses of Gerard in him. But the attraction's there, and so even though she's not ready for it, and she keeps trying to think of him as a brother, that attraction is there. And so I think that's why, she hasn't fully cut him off, because she's just not able to fully say, like, no, this is not what I want. Yeah, she's hesitant and she doesn't want to move forward, but she's not disinterested enough to say absolutely not, this is never going to happen either. And she does have that attraction, and she does have that need there as well. So I think that's why she doesn't fully cut him off, and she does kind of keep leading him on a little bit for sure. uh and 36, Ruth finally convinces Ariana to see the doctor. Why didn't she push it sooner? And so, Ariana continues to be sick, continues to get dizzy spells and everything like that. And they just keep kind of waiting. And I think one of the reasons was because she was already checked out and they didn't find anything wrong. And so they kind of just blamed it on the whole ordeal that she went through. And so I think they just kept using the ordeal as an excuse, especially since they couldn't find anything. And so I think that's kind of why they let it drag on longer than I think they typically would have. So even though something was clearly wrong, it wasn't completely unexpected either with everything she's been through. And she had already been checked out and they didn't find anything. So I think that's why they continued just to kind of let it go to see if she was going to get better or what was the case. And I think she was kind of getting more energy and everything as well, which helped them. Like, okay, she's taking time to recover, not realizing that she really did need to be seen. And let's see, 37. As much as she loves and trusts the Liebmans, why doesn't she want to tell them about the baby? So, of course, there's a little bit of spoiler there, but we already kind of knew that based on the synopsis that at some point, she gets pregnant because her son, obviously, the rings and everything go to him. So we knew that was coming, and I think we could have guessed it anyway. And I think, she says she doesn't want to burden them any further, and I don't think that's fully it. I think the main reason she doesn't want to tell them is because then she would have to talk about Manfred and her past and everything, and I don't think she's ready to do that. And I don't think she's ready to reveal that. And then, of course, then that's going to bring up the question of her being Jewish and everything like that. And so I think that's really why she doesn't want to tell them. It's not so much that she's worried about being a burden to them further or anything like that. It's just she isn't ready to open that whole can of worms at all. So, and let's see here, 38. Why did the doctor suggest to Ariana what he did? And so I was really surprised reading it that the doctor did suggest what he did. And reading it, it took, like I said, it took me by surprise, and I would have expected him, to kind of go the opposite way. But I think he definitely had a soft spot for Ariana, and he recognized that she wasn't ready to talk about her whole history or anything like that, and so she was kind of resolute in the fact that she was not going to tell them about the baby. She was going to move out and then tell them after the fact once she was moved out and working and everything. But he recognizes, like, one, you're German, so trying to find a job is going to be difficult, and two, you're pregnant, and so that's going to be even more difficult, and at some point you're not going to be able to work, so how are you going to care for this child? And so I really think, he was kind of looking at the lesser of the two evils. He knows the family well, and he does see, how Paul looks at Ariana and everything. um and he probably figured, this would do the least harm. If she's not going to tell them about everything, then this would do the least harm. And, what somebody doesn't know doesn't hurt them essentially. And I think he just really had a soft spot for Ariana and was trying to encourage her to really do what was best for her and the baby, regardless of whether it was technically morally right or wrong. So I think that's kind of where he was coming from, was like, you need to protect your baby, and this is a way you can do that without revealing all your secrets that you don't want to reveal. And the last question, number 39. Would Ariana struggle with what to do if the doctor hadn't encouraged her as he had? And so we see she's shocked as well. Like right away when he suggests that, she's like, "No, like I can't do that. That's not okay. Like I can't do that to Paul. And I can't do that to the rest of the family." Um, so I think if the doctor hadn't suggested that, she wouldn't struggle at all. I think she would stick to her original plan. Or maybe she would have ended up telling them, but now she has, this kind older gentleman who's encouraging her to do this thing, which she knows, is wrong, but at the same time, she's being encouraged to do that. Um, and so now that seed is kind of planted in her head, and she does have the baby to think of, and she didn't think it all the way through, with her original plan. So I think if he had never suggested that, it wouldn't be an issue at all. But because he had, now she's questioning whether she should do that or not, like whether, the needs of her and her baby make it okay, to kind of be deceitful and lie and such. So that's kind of my take on it. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Don't forget, we're going to be finishing up the rest of the book this week. We are reading chapters 40 through 51. So I'm really enjoying this and can't wait to see how it all ties together in the end. And then, of course, don't forget, next week we will be starting Obsidian Butterfly by Laurell K. Hamilton. If you didn't see the introductory video, I'll leave it linked below, and it kind of gives you the synopsis and everything like that. So, really excited to be reading this as well. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.